And away we go. Broncos Country. It is orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, and you see the thumbnail, Mace. Some surprising news for the Denver Broncos today, firing offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi.
I mean, yeah, not something we were expecting coming out of the season, no doubt. This was a shock.
Yeah, definitely a shock, and a shock to do it today. Of course, you had the season-ending presser, Sean Payton, George Payton talking, and then this afternoon, that news comes in, and really, honestly, after that game, Mace, after the AFC Championship, I didn't really think anybody had to fall on the sword, so to speak. We see that with other playoff games, but in this game, I had no idea that they would fire Joe Lombardi.
Well, it was a top 10 offense, of course. Then again, Sean Payton's the play caller. 10th in total offense. It's Sean Payton's first top 10 offense without Drew Brees since Drew Brees' retirement. So, I mean, it was a little bit of a stunner. And by all indications, the potential status of Davis Webb, potentially trying to keep him around, doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, when that report came out as well, because that's the first thing all of us say is like, Joe Lombardi's fired, it's so Davis Webb doesn't go to the Raiders. Then the report comes out and said, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. They're going to have a search for an offensive coordinator. Honestly, I think the Raiders are waiting for Clint Kubiak. I could be totally wrong. But this Davis Webb thing, it's like, well, if he doesn't get the OC job and they pass over him for somebody else, I mean, that might not sit real well.
Yeah. I mean, how would you feel if you were him, if they have a search and they go in another direction? I mean,
yeah.
And the other thing, of course, with Davis Webb anyway is, I mean, Sean Payton's, unless he changes his mind, he's going to hang on to play calling. That's not something the Broncos are going to offer him unless Sean Payton has an unusual change of heart here. And with the Broncos offense trending in the right direction in general, okay, yeah, frustrating performance Sunday, 7 points. He's kicking himself over the specific play call on the fourth down in the second quarter. He's kicking himself more on the play call than the decision to go for fourth down. I mean, you can debate the decision, but he's more incensed with himself over the play call. But the offense is trending in the right direction overall. I don't think he's got really much of a justification to surrender play calling responsibilities. The positives outweigh the negatives there. So, yeah, you know, it's an interesting move, and you kind of wonder, you know, what's next, what's over the horizon. Are there other moves coming? I mean, because there are, you know, you had two veterans that have been around Sean Payton for a while on the offensive staff, because you had Joe Lombardi and then you had Pete Carmichael. Carmichael succeeded Sean Payton as play caller in New Orleans. He stuck around in New Orleans after Payton left as head coach after 2021 and was play caller for another couple of seasons. And then after the Saints dismissed him, he came to the Broncos as to kind of be senior offensive assistant, whatever, in 24 and 25. So you wonder what Carmichael's role is going to be, what happens with him going forward on this as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing of, well, he's got his guys from New Orleans. Joe Lombardi was one of those guys, and now maybe that's Pete Carmichael, but if the search is open, honestly, I don't know how far it gets past Davis Webb or Pete Carmichael, really.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, it's offensive coordinator, so coordinator role, you've got to have Rooney Rule compliance as well, so you have to have an open search that involves, being copacetic with that. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, you have to go to whatever. You have to, you just hand it to the next guy. You actually have to have an earnest search involved with it. So
yeah, an earnest search involved with it, and we'll see what happens there. A lot of different coordinator stuff going on around the league. For example, Tanner Engstrand was fired by the Jets today. So it's like, okay, so could Joe land there with Aaron Glenn? I don't know.
I mean, you think about it, with the Jets, they've dismissed all three coordinators.
Right.
After Aaron Glenn's first season.
1 year.
I mean, Does that not tell you that Aaron Glenn's seat may well be roasting at this point because he's canned all three coordinators? I mean, that's typically the move you make when you know you're next if you don't turn it around. So,
yeah. So I
Jet's
don't think this
Jet.
was done as a favor to Joe Lombardi, like, hey, it's a lateral move, the Jets want you or whatever. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, Mace. We got the news, an hour or so ago, and I'm like, well, it's not really to help out Aaron Glenn. Detroit already hired their OC, of course, so it's like, okay, why did this happen? Who gets the job now? And was there some sort of disagreement? I don't believe so. A parting of the ways, maybe? It doesn't seem like this thing would come to a rough ending.
I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know what specifically went down. I mean, we can only speculate on that at this point. I mean, it wasn't expected. There was no indication of trouble or anything like that. And if it had been a situation where Joe Lombardi was looking for more responsibility, chance to call plays again, yeah, but it wouldn't have been a firing, right?
Right.
It would have been him voluntarily moving on, or it would have been phrased differently. It would have come out differently as, Joe Lombardi choosing to pursue other opportunities. It would not have dripped out the way it did that he was fired. So
yeah.
This is when it's fired, it's involuntary.
Yeah, fired is the key word there with Joe Lombardi, and now Sean Payton looks to fix this ground game. He was asked that today in the post-season press conference of that needs to be an emphasis for this team moving forward. I don't see Joe Lombardi as getting in the way of the development of the ground game, but here we are, Mace.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ground game part of that is, the offensive line's involved, the running backs are involved as well. Now the interesting thing is you look at what goes on in terms of the overall offense. Joe Lombardi probably took a little bit more responsibility for the running game than the pass game if you're kind of looking for kind of a responsibilities being divvied up. And certainly the run game hasn't been as productive as you'd like, but at the same time, when you look at the productivity of the run game, you have J.K. Dobbins averaging 5 yards a carry, Jaleel McLaughlin averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and R.J. Harvey averaging 3.7 yards per carry. So you have an offensive line that ranked fourth in the league in run block win rate, so you got the performance that you're used to getting from the offensive line in run blocking. That's the old ESPN analytics number. And one thing that we picked up from Sean Payton several months ago is that they've found that the analytics that we have access to are actually pretty well in line with what their own evaluation reveals. So that's something worth noting. And you have a couple of ball carriers that are 5.0 yards per carry guys behind that line and one that isn't. So sort of, what's the disconnect there, right? Is it something that for RJ Harvey that he can improve on and get better in the future? And maybe were they disappointed in perhaps something in the coaching and the development of RJ Harvey? One thing that I think was interesting coming out of the press conference today in general was seemed like Sean Payton was pretty pleased with some of the young players that he has, at least from what he's saying. Pleased with RJ Harvey, pleased with the young receivers in particular, even though he was rankled by some of the drops. Of course, it's worth noting that on the drops, among the wide receivers, the biggest culprit was Courtland Sutton, and overall, the biggest culprit in terms of drops, when it comes to drop rate, among the primary targets was Evan Engram. So food for thought there.
Yeah, food for thought there as we look to this Broncos team. George Payton also showing support for those young receivers, Mason, where you and I are not giving up on the young receivers, but adding a playmaker is something certainly this team, both a running back, a tight end, and a receiver, at least one of each position, if not multiple of each position this offseason, I think will be a point of emphasis. Regardless of today, George Payton's showing support for those receivers.
Yeah, and the it may be a multi-layered solution as well. When I say multi-layered, I think you perhaps draft and free agency. I mean, you take tight end, for instance. That could be a position overhaul. I mean, you have an expiring contract in Adam Troutman. You have Nate Adkins, restricted free agent, and you have Evan Engram. Now he's got something we mentioned because of the void year. There's 2 more years left on his deal, but realistically 1 more year, and if you use the post June 1 designation, there's a move you could make on him. I mean, you could potentially overhaul that entire position. You could go free agent. I mean, how does a name like David Njoku strike you potentially? And you could go free agent. You could go draft. You could kind of have a young and veteran solution there if you're looking to bolster the room. So I mean, that was one thing I think it's sort of worth noting when you look at George Payton's comments when he talked not only about the cap space, but he talked about the draft capital when he said 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. So I think any solution there it's not just one or the other. I think it's both. And when he talked about, and also 5 picks in the first 4 rounds means resources to trade up. And so that brings us to another, tight end, for example, to go back to that. If you wanted to trade up for Kenyon Sadiq, and if the mocks are to be believed, Kenyon Sadiq could be there in the early 20s, Broncos sitting with the 30th overall pick. I mean, is it reasonable to say you could go package your 2 to move up from 30 to, say, 22 or 23 and get Kenyon Sadiq? That would seem a pretty reasonable trade. And with 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, it could be palatable for the Broncos to do that and think, okay, well, we still have 4 picks in the first 4 rounds. But we could go up and get a guy who could have immediate impact at a position that needs shoring up.
Every single offseason is so important for George Payton. This one, Mace, to me, is incredible because of the team being in this Super Bowl window. So be as aggressive. George Payton said today, going to be as aggressive as we can be.
Yeah, and I think that also means, like, in the draft, you want somebody who can help you now. And that's why Sadiq is so intriguing, because there may not be a player that you could reasonably get in the back half of the first round who could have as much immediate impact as he could in terms of being able to step in at an area where you're clearly lacking and help you. And another interesting thing that Sean Payton said today was he talked about how he still wants to use a lot of 2 tight end formations. That was something that he noted, which again goes back to, okay, if maybe you're thinking about overhauling the position, and that's where it struck me. All right, this might, maybe you weren't happy with the drop rate from Evan Engram, and maybe you just want to completely revamp the position, the solution may be free agency and the draft. It could be both, right? So that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see, a pickup in March and some major draft capital for a pickup in April to maybe get a guy who can help you right away.
When Evan Engram talks about his role, Mace, did your antenna go up at all? Like, hey, is he complaining about the way they used him? I thought it was interesting what he said.
He didn't sound happy.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. He didn't sound happy. And whether you want to, call it complaint, whatever. He sounded happy, maybe even a little bit confused about how things were. I think he sounded like a guy who maybe expected one thing and got another. That's what I'd boil it down to.
I still don't blame Sean Payton. I know that we've had some YouTube chats where people are like, hey, he's not using Engram the right way. Sean Payton made Jimmy Graham. I don't necessarily think that's Sean Payton. Maybe it's a little more blocking responsibility than Engram. That's the moves at tight end will tell us what they think of Engram more than this 1 year.
But I'd also say, some of it, when you have a high drop rate like Evan Engram did, some of it's on the player himself. Again, only one tight end with at least 25 targets in the league had a higher drop rate. That was Mason Taylor, the rookie with the Jets. Okay, I mean, I think there's 56 tight ends with at least 25 targets, and he had the second highest drop rate. I mean, that has to be notable as well. I mean, maybe there was a trustworthiness factor that he didn't pass the test on because he had so many drops. That has to matter as well.
Super quick, they're not kicking you out at the Senior Bowl, right?
They're not yet, but there aren't many. The number of people that are left here, you can probably count on two. As I'm looking around here, I think you can count on maybe 3 hands. So it's not many. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me.
That's why I'm looking. It's why I'm looking around here. So.
Right. I just want to make sure nobody's giving you the wrap up sign. Wrap up.
Yeah.
We got plenty of Senior Bowl stuff coming for you later this week. We got today with Joe Lombardi.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, I was watching practice, getting all of it down. I'm going to have a little more of that later on at denversports.com, kind of breaking down some observations today, specifically from linebackers, running backs, tight ends. That's what I was looking at, but also there's some stuff from the edge rushers as well, because you're always looking at edge, you're always looking at defensive line too. So, and speaking of edge, by the way, real interesting comment I thought from George Payton today on Q Robinson. And I bring that up because the Broncos still have a surplus at edge. And one thing that I think is always worth noting is when you're heavy at edge, is that a position from which you trade maybe to move up a little bit in the draft again, to move up and get an immediate impact type player in round 1, and you do that maybe without sacrificing draft capital. Maybe trading from that position of strength, trading some of your depth, allows you to not trade, say, a future 1 or a future 2, perhaps. I mean, that's something to consider, because he was pretty excited about how Q came along in practice. He also was pretty excited about how Savion Jones came along in practice, which I think also augurs for what we're going to see with John Franklin Myers. I think, JFM, he'd like to stay, but he talked yesterday about how the Broncos haven't had a contract conversation with him. I think he knows how he's going to go. He even said he was pretty excited to see what the market would bear. He knows what's happening there too. So, kind of is what it is there.
Yeah, somebody about to pay John Franklin Myers, that's for sure. Let's tie a bow in the show, but first, a quick word from Ramos Law.
At Ramos Law, they believe in building long-term relationships with their clients. It's never just a transaction. Their motto says it best. Ramos Law, what makes us different makes us better. And it's so true. Ramos Law, uniquely built to fight for you.
Oh, Mace, down there at the Senior Bowl.
I miss you, man.
I miss being there, man.
It's not the same without you.
19 years in a row. Done. Ugh.
Sorry.
I know.
Yeah, you can vent to me, man, later off air.
I will. I vented a little on air today on the radio, so it's whatever. Like, you're there to find skill position players. Unfortunately, my man Jonah Coleman, the Washington running back, accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl, but Mace, you said he's not on the Senior Bowl roster, so
yeah, I didn't see him out here.
One of my favorite guys.
Didn't see him out here today. Like, that was a little bit of a surprise, not seeing him out there. I'll say this, kind of a broad-based thought. Boy, I'm glad the Broncos aren't looking for quarterbacks anymore.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
Too. Like, it's nice to not be in a quarterback market.
I said it last year. I'll say it again this year. Last year, I'm like, gosh, I'm glad they don't have to talk their way into any of these guys. The only thing I will say is, I can see the Taysom Hill thing with Diego Pavia a little bit. There are a couple of plays today I'm like, okay, there were a couple of throws he put some hot sauce on. I'm like, all right. I could see Sean Payton looking at him and thinking I could do this. I mean, I'm not sure. The only thing that I think you'd be wondering about is, of course, all the, character type stuff, some of the comments he's made, etc. So would he fit? But I could see Sean looking at the skill set, size, and making a comp potentially. So that was something that did sort of strike me as I was watching the first practice today, the end of the two teams out here. So but I was distracted because I'm watching practice, and then Joe Lombardi is getting fired.
Right.
Like it's like, admittedly, so much was going on that I'm trying to take notes. I'm trying to shoot video, and it didn't have. I'm gonna go back and rewatch everything tonight and really kind of dive in because it was just one of those days. But
yeah, your phone's blowing up.
Yeah, like I'm glad I'm here, but yeah, wasn't the same without you. It wasn't. I shot a stand up a few minutes ago before I did this live show, and I'm like, I miss having my buddy here, man. It's not the same.
Our stand ups are so awesome, but I'll watch the film tonight as well. We're gonna do full Senior Bowl breakdown again. We got plenty of time. Mace is there. We both have access to the film. We're going to watch it. We're going to break it down for you and see what the Broncos can find, man. The scouts are there. George Payton did say that. Of course, he's not there.
They were right. Yep, right across the way over there. They were sitting over there. So, can confirm.
Can confirm. Confirmed. All right, Mace. We'll wrap it up so you can get it gets warm. Looks cool there. By that water, it does get a little colder.
It was sub-freezing last night when I drove over here, and they're not really used to that down here. And Gulf, believe it or so it's about 43 degrees here, and the thing I can tell you is that temperature with the humidity, it deduct about 15 degrees from it, and you get what it feels like in Denver. So 43 here probably feels like about 28 or 27 in Denver. So it's frosty. You're not the only one frosty on this. Normally I'm saucy, but today I'm frosty. I got my jacket here.
You're layered up.
I'm down south, but I feel like I'm, Nanook of the North here right now. the Alaska Fairbanks Nanooks.
All right, well, we've got it all for you right here on Orange and Blue today. We only ask one thing, as we're now over 25,000 subscribers. I want 100.
Woo!
So let's go, everybody. Mace, how can folks further help our YouTube channel?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss vid.
I need a handheld mic so I can do that too. Anyway, he's Andrew Mason. Appreciate him. So follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. More from the Senior Bowl coming up tomorrow, everyone. Thanks for watching. He's Frosty. I'm Saucy. Peace.